We're live and we're going here. Okay, this is the Common Council meeting to be held Tuesday, November 1st, 2022 at 7 p.m. The meeting is called to order. Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Collins.
Present.
Alderperson Bailey will be here shortly. Alderperson Kastner.
Present.
Alderperson Akers.
Present.
Alderperson Sarian.
Present.
Item B is opening prayer. We have Deacon Leggett here. Dear Lord, we now come. We pray that will fulfill the ways that for the we also Item C is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance? Where is the?
It's here. It's just kind of around the corner.
It's like, someone has stolen the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Bailey is here.
I've got him down.
I'm moving along to item D. I'd entertain a motion to approve the October 18th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
By Alderperson
I'll
Akers,
second.
second by Alderperson Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Quickly into mayor's report this evening. As Deacon Leggett pointed out, what a glorious day, right? What a great day. And it's hard to believe it's November 1st. All right. Item F, aldermanic reports. Are there any this evening? None this evening. Moving along to announcements. Any announcements this evening?
Getting more compliments on our Power Line Trail.
Getting lots of compliments. One thing I did notice before I came to the meeting tonight, 60th Street Bridge has all its paint, line striping down. All the power seems to be there, all the signals. So I would hope that it's going to be opening pretty quickly here.
Did the ramps open up, Jeff? The off ramps?
The two that were open prior just being closed
Yeah,
are
the right
are
turn only
reopened.
ones.
Those are opened. All the paving's done, the line striping's done, the lights are all on. I'm not sure if the power's hooked up yet, but it's very, very close to being open, which is a beautiful thing. Under item F, no aldermanic reports. Item G, announcements. Anybody have any? Going to citizen commentary, we'll have one person, Marilyn Rome.
Mr. Mayor, can we just say a few words on the grand opening that we had on 68th and Layton?
Absolutely.
The veterinary
Midwest Veterinary Specialist.
And
veterinary specialists, an excellent facility, and they gave us a tour, and it was very well attended.
right, 68th and Layton, everyone was wondering what was going in that building. It's actually two things. It's probably the highest tech vet clinic in the state of Wisconsin, based on the presentation given by the director of the place. It's absolutely amazing. I think there's actually two components to it, right? One is a vet clinic and one is like an emergency surgery center. So it's hard to believe that was a Greenfield News and Hobby. As I was standing there, I kept looking for the trains and the magazines and stuff. But
I was impressed. It's like a state-of-the-art facility.
it's
And it's the only one like it in Wisconsin.
right. It's very, very cool.
Nice.
All right, moving along, citizen commentary, we have Marilyn Rome at 545 East Estates Place in Oak Creek. Marilyn's here this evening. Did you want to come up and? Is it on?
for a pothole incident back in early May. I turned in the claim with all of the 5 items that were required that Jennifer, your city clerk, had emailed to me. I also turned in a revised claim, just a revision of the letter dated May 12th. I've talked with Jennifer numerous times. She informed me in August 15th to try calling the city attorney. I've called the city attorney August 15th, leaving him a message. October 3rd, October 12th, October 19th, October 24th, and I called his office today and they said he would be in tomorrow, so I plan on calling him tomorrow. I've gotten no response on this. I don't know where it's at, if it's under a desk or in in a pile. I just would appreciate some sort of a response. This happened
tomorrow.
pardon?
He'll respond tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, this happened on the intersection of just north of Layton on 84th, going on to the on-ramp, and completely blew my tire out. And there were numerous potholes in that intersection. So I have names of the sheriff deputies, the one that helped change my tire, and when I went back to take a picture, and that's included in it as well, of the pothole, there was another deputy that said, which pothole was it? Because the whole intersection had potholes, and there were 6 blown tires that day. So I feel that this was negligence, and I'm not asking for a whole lot, just I took my car into a friend who works at Ewald Venus, and he gave me a discount on the new tire. And then after I did a revise, because when I drove on it then, I needed a front wheel alignment because it was severely pulling. And I also submitted my sales receipt because I purchased the car from a dealership, a major dealership in March, 2 months before. So it wasn't my car. My car was in great shape. It was a 2019 Hyundai, so.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to know that it's not being, I don't want time to lapse so that it disappears and it's too late.
Okay. Very
Okay?
good. He'll contact you tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Anybody else for citizen commentary? Moving along to item I, public hearings. The first one is I-1, a public hearing on a special use permit for K-Pot Korean Barbecue and Hot Pot, a proposed restaurant to be located at 4902 South 74th Street, submitted by Brian Pham, hope I pronounced that right, doing business as KHP Greenfield LLC. After this public hearing, the council will be asked to approve a resolution for a special use permit for that restaurant at that location, as well as approve a site plan review for that restaurant at that location, which is part of the old Greenfield Fashion Center. I think that's what it's still called. It's the Old Country Buffet portion, right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as you mentioned, this proposed restaurant would occupy the entire Old Country Buffet tenant space. The property is zoned planned unit development, which permits full-service restaurants as a special use. Old Country Buffet has been closed for over 1 year, so we need to start over with the public hearing and treat it as if it's a brand-new restaurant situation, hence the public hearing this evening. They'll offer Korean barbecue, various meat, seafood, vegetable, hot pot options. Their proposed hours of operation are noon to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, noon to 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. The applicant does have over 10 years of restaurant experience. The site is in great condition, no issues. All the uses on site, there's well over 1,000 parking spaces on site, no shortage. The Plan Commission recommended approval in September, and we've received no letters of objection or support to date.
Okay, the only person I see registered for the public hearing is the applicant, Brian Pham. Is there anyone that would like to speak for, against, or informational purposes concerning this item? Is there anyone that would like to speak for, against, or for informational
Make a
purposes?
motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Alderperson Caster to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderperson Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I do have a question about it. Is it a buffet or is it a sit-down?
The guys in the back corner over there can probably answer you.
Brian?
It is, that's what I thought. Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Well then, I'm very excited.
Does the council wish to take any action? To
I'll
approve
make
the
a motion to
resolution,
approve.
Approve the site plan review
The resolution
and the site plan review?
and the site plan review, I'm sorry.
Alderperson Collins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers, would you please call?
Alderperson Collins,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 2, under I2, is a public hearing on a special use permit for Mr. Car Wash, a proposed business to be located at 4763 South 27th Street, submitted by Steve Lepovsky, doing business as CWP West Corp. This would also be to approve a resolution for that car wash, as well as approve the site landscape and architectural plans. This is the old Sonic restaurant.
It was disappointing it didn't fly.
Huh?
It was disappointing that Sonic didn't make it there.
Sonic? Yeah. Is there a mic on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, sorry.
And I'm talking right
It
into
doesn't have
it.
a frayed cord in the back.
Nope, it's got a green light on.
Yeah, I like Sonic, but I didn't like their advertising campaign, to be honest.
Just need a hearing aid
Nobody
there.
cares. Chrissy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you mentioned, this is a complete tear down and new build tear down of Sonic, rebuild, new build of Mr. Car Wash. Property zone C2, which permits car washes as a special use. The proposed hours of operation are 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6 on Sunday. It's an estimated $4 million project on 27th Street. It's a standalone express car wash building, approximately 5,600 square feet in size. Our code requires 4 parking spaces, 10 will be provided. That includes free vacuum stalls, and then there will be a retaining wall along South 27th Street in the northern drive lane, and then extensive landscaping around the perimeter of the site. The Plan Commission recommended a few slight modifications with building materials, and Mr. Car Wash responded already with new building elevations. So you have masonry materials on the bottom half of the building. And then we also asked for a rendering of the retaining wall from South 27th Street view, which has, of course, a guard handrail, which is required for a retaining wall of that size. But they supplied this rendering from the 27th Street view. You can see the site even from that MapQuest picture in the very front. The site is elevated a bit from 27th Street, hence the need for the retaining wall. One point that was brought up is this is the existing Mr. Car Wash on Layton Avenue near Highway 100, just south of Walmart. And you can see that this existing building has an issue with stains exiting with the vehicle and staining Layton Avenue. The applicant has assured the Plan Commission and staff but we did add language in the resolution. They assured us that this new building, the new technology won't have the stains that go out with the vehicles. However, language in the resolution does state that Mr. Car Wash would be responsible for any cleaning of stains produced at the new site, whether on public or private land, because they do have an easement with Ashley Furniture. They share a driveway there off of 27th Street. Plan Commission recommended approval, and we've received no letters of objection or support to date.
Can you go back to the guardrail?
That's actually the east side wall, right?
Yeah, I think that's labeled wrong yet.
Not west.
So that's actually a guardrail? Didn't we discuss that they were going to hide that somehow from 27th Street?
It's behind that wall, right?
It's behind,
That's
as
a-
much as it could be, yeah, behind the retaining wall.
So that little tiny thing is the butt ugly guardrail?
I'll let the applicant maybe respond to that particular question.
That was a technical term, too.
As I understood it, the guardrail was behind, the retaining wall actually went up higher to shield the guardrail from the street, right?
If you could just state
It's
your
not like
name for the
A
record,
rail,
please.
rail, it's.
Yep.
Yeah, so, Eric Lokensgaard with Kimley Horn Associates. We're the consulting engineer on the project. Yeah, so the guardrail is, the elevations are on there. I think it's 3 feet tall. And then the retaining wall would come up above the bottom of grade by a foot or so. What's not shown on this cross section is the landscaping that would be between the terraces as well as between the guardrail and the retaining wall. It's shown in the landscape plan, but that's not, it's hard to get a sense of
So you're using landscaping to hide the guardrail?
landscaping, yep, in conjunction with the foot or so that the.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Much improvement from before.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against for informational purposes concerning this item? Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against or for informational purposes concerning this item? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
And I will second.
Kestner, second by Alderperson Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Just with regard to Layton Avenue, I think they went out and cleaned it after the discussion at the planning commission. Does that sound right, Mr. Car Wash guy?
Wheel brightener. Gets the last application.
We have your assurances that you're going to clean it?
Is that on the record? Or
Well, it's,
Yeah,
he
it is
just
in
said
the-
it to
actually, it's
potentially
agreement.
8 billion people worldwide, and it's recorded, so. Looking at my monitor, I see that there are over 40,000 people watching this. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution and the special use
I will make that motion.
or site landscaping and architectural plans. Motion by Alderperson Kastner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarinitz in her district. Would you please call? It is, right?
Alderperson Collins.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Zarian.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously. The minutes should reflect that the representative from Mr. Car Wash acknowledged at the Common Council meeting that the discoloration and chemicals would be removed from Layton Avenue. Right? Correct. Just checking. All right. Item 3 is a public hearing on an ordinance to amend the official Greenfield zoning map by rezoning the property located 4200 South 76th Street from C4 Regional Business District to PUD Planned Unit Development District, PUD number 4. This would include adopting an ordinance to amend the official Greenfield zoning map by rezoning the property located at 4200 South 76th Street from C4 Regional Business District to PUD Planned Unit Development District.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we are talking about the entire Spring Mall property. That does not include Walgreens, and it does not include Arby's. Those are their own separate parcels with their own separate ownership. So, but we are discussing these two larger buildings, and this is the former, it was a bank and video that has since been demolished. So today, this property, the pink represents our C4 commercial district. You can see a lot of the property surrounding this is also zone C4, Pick and Save across the street, and the properties to the south. What is being proposed is, the city's comprehensive land use map, the 2020 map, identified this area, this parcel, as planned mixed use. For a future rezone, it's a guidance. If the city chooses to rezone, which the Common Council is considering this evening, it's a guidance of what type of zoning would be appropriate for this particular parcel. So what's drafted in the ordinance before you is specific for this property, planned unit development number 4. What we do with these planned unit developments is we list specific uses that can go into that parcel. So what is drafted in this ordinance is general commercial retail, professional services, office, medical office, recreational entertainment uses, restaurants with or without a drive-through, and also multifamily residential housing. So uses that are not listed here would not be allowed unless we chose to do a public hearing for a future rezone. These are just some standards for the planned unit development that include setbacks, density. These, what you see before you they follow our standard planned unit development districts. We require a minimum open space ratio for landscaping, a minimum lot area, setbacks. One thing that is different is the minimum side yard setback. We set that along the north utility corridor. The power line trail would have a 0-foot setback. It's a huge, we all know how big of a gap that power line trail is. There's no buildings along there. We felt that it would be safe to have a 0-foot setback, and there's still quite a large area, even from the actual trail, from the property line. And then we did reduce the minimum distance between buildings to just be 20 feet. Cobalt has an offer to purchase this parcel, and they have a general conceptual site plan laid out, and they felt that they needed about 20 feet between buildings in order to be able to fit what they have drawn on their conceptual site plan. So the maximum height would be 5 feet for this particular district, and there is some very specific language in the ordinance that this rezoning to specifically planned unit development number 4 would only be effective if the deed transferring ownership from the property from Brixmor to Cobalt actually goes through and is recorded with the Register of Deeds. So if the sale does not go through, Brixmor put out an RFP nationwide. We had a lot of developers inquiring with me, just generally asking, what does the city want to see here at Spring Mall? And Brixmor on their own, there's zero influence from the city, zero discussions with the city about it. I think that they narrowed it down to 4 or 5 developers, and Brixmor selected Cobalt Partners, so they do have this parcel under contract. But again, the rezoning would not be recorded until the actual sale takes place. If it falls through, then it just continues with its C4 zoning as it is today. So again, this is the site here with the black dotted line being the property line, excluding Arby's and excluding Walgreens. And this is a conceptual site plan that Cobalt has provided to the Plan Commission. What they're showing are side-by-side townhouse style units, 12-unit buildings in the kind of the northern eastern section of the parcel. They would dedicate the very eastern property line area to some sort of stormwater landscaping buffer from the residential neighborhood to the east. It would include 2 multifamily larger buildings, 4 stories, along Cold Spring and a little bit along Forest Home Avenue. And then the orange buildings you see here would be some sort of commercial restaurant, possibly type of use. They do plan on maintaining Myers Restaurants, who would be relocated to kind of more central northern area, closer to 76th Street on this conceptual site plan. And then they have an outdoor kind of entertainment area, possible trail connections to the power line, and then possibly a second restaurant on the site. So it's not as dense as for instance, the Forte at 84 South, not nearly as dense as that, or Loomis and Layton. It's a lot more, less dense with the town-style homes, apartments, taking up the majority of the site here. So that kind of concludes the public hearing for the rezone and the future vision from Cobalt for this particular parcel.
Just a couple quick things from Planning Commission. Where you see stormwater there, that isn't a pond the size of that tan thing. Just to be clear, that's where stormwater would be set, and that's where landscaping would be set. There was also some discussion that I'd had with the developer with regard to the triangular privately owned property that's near Forest Home, near the entrance. It was my understanding that the developer was working with the property owner with regard to trying to increase the size of that and I'm not privy to those discussions, but that was my understanding, and I see that there are two representatives from Cobalt here this evening. Maybe they can discuss the triangular piece near Forest Home. It was also my understanding that this called for trying to get Myers on the site to, to improve that. It's a great business, which is, I think, an asset to the community, trying to get them involved here. But there was also this idea that other restaurants might be situated at this site. It's my understanding that there's potentially some problems with the siting of other restaurants other than Myers, which could be a significant impediment to this project. I did want to point out, with regard the zoning is contingent upon the closing, if and when the property closes. If for some reason the offer to purchase collapses and the property isn't purchased by Cobalt, the zoning would remain as it is. And we'd probably be starting all over again. For those folks that live in the area, and many of you may know this, the property had been under the control of Pick and Save and Roundy's for a number of years in its closed situation. They kept the lease going because they didn't want any competition at the site. Over the course of time, other retailers and grocery stores have looked at the site, but none ever acted on it. There was one large one that had significant interest in the site, but they shifted their focus to another community.
Can I just ask, the restaurants, I mean, they're listed on here. I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I think if ever, and the developer can certainly speak to this, I'm assuming that, the best faith efforts are going to be made to try to get these restaurants there.
Well, I've talked to the owner of Myers too, and.
Yeah, I have two, and there's a desire he has another product in another community that I think it's an Italian-focused restaurant that may be on this thing that he would also like to put at this site. But that's subject to the negotiation, I think, between the developer and the restaurateur. I know he's very excited to continue to stay on the site. He has a very large following within the community.
And he's excited to get a new building too.
Well, I mean, he doesn't just get a new building, so I'm not sure that's how it works. So this is a public hearing. Again, if you're here to speak for or against or informational purposes, there are some pink slips up there. I have a couple of piles. What I'm going to do first, there are 3 registering for information only. The developer I see is here, and I think with a broker. Are you a broker? The architect. That's the architect? Wow, he looks like a broker. Dressed really well for an architect. Usually they wear jeans and stuff. All right, then there's one person that's registering against but not speaking, and then another person that's registering in favor but not speaking. What I'd like to do is do the information ones first. If you guys can write down the questions or answers to your questions or keep track of that stuff, that would be helpful. The first person is Marlene Sontag, 7200 West Plainfield. What you'll have to do is come up to the microphone, and if you can pull the microphone down so that we can all hear you, that would be wonderful.
Well, being that the dotted line isn't signed yet, my only question, obviously, I'm with the T residential area at the top of the T, and my concern, is the wall that's going to be put up that was projected that they said they would put along the whole area. Currently, there's like a redwood fence that years ago Billy's old mill put. It's half in the neighbors' yards and whatever. But what are they proposing as far as a wall? 6 foot, 8 foot, metal? What type of material? Number 2, there currently is a lot of beautiful landscaping there because Billy's did put that in. That was all landscaped. It's all nice trees. It's decades of trees and landscaping. And we would like that wall that's going to be put on their side so that we have the landscaping hiding the wall that's going to be installed. And number 2, how long will that wall go? And I guess that's my main concern is the privacy.
So the actual placement of the wall and where it goes and what happens to the landscape.
Right. And right now, if you look at where this T Street of ours is, and you start on Forest Home, as you proceed back to the electric company, that is not level. It's level by Forest Home. As you get to the end of our street, there's about a 6 or 8 foot hill that comes down. And are they planning on flattening that to be flat with the end of our street? Or is that hill going to continue where we're still going to have snow runnage and whatever and less place for snow to come?
I'll let them answer that. I actually don't know the answer.
It's all based on that,
Sure.
our border there and what they're going to put up there for.
Did you live next to the Webbers?
I'm in Bailey's old house.
Bailey's?
Right, 7200 West Plainfield, they
Yes,
grew up.
I'm the second house in from,
Okay.
so I'm right at the end of the top of the T.
Okay, so the house at the end of the T to the
Right.
right was the Webbers, right?
Two down, Weber's are two down,
The
Haley's was
date
in
Patty
between us.
For a
Yeah,
very short.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
There's 10 houses to the right here, in that little subdivision that comes off of Forest Home there.
Right, yeah.
You still have the little mark on the wall, how tall he was when he was 10?
No, I think those walls are gone, we did a lot.
Okay. The next, that's it?
That's
So they're
it.
they'll answer the questions once we get them all rattled off. Next one is John Wooden, 4185 South 72nd Street.
Maybe some of these have already been discussed. I haven't been able to be at the first couple of meetings, but just some thoughts. One of them was about the 8-foot fence. I guess I'm wondering how far from our property line in is it going to be? Right now we got this old rickety fence. If they tear that out, is it just going to be wide open between there and wherever this fence is going to be? I don't know. And I guess, and I'm sure your engineers have looked through all this, but we're talking about hundreds of people being housed in this area. Is the sewer going to be able to handle all this stuff? You know, has that all been worked through?
I'll let them answer that, but the answer to that is yes, they do work through the flows and all of those things.
Yeah, we just don't want to be downhill from whatever's coming our way. Okay, maybe this is just rumors, but just the fact that it's out there, I guess I'd like somebody to address it. Somebody else, not me, but somebody else in the area said they did some homework on this company or one like it, and they got some kind of deal worked out with the city, you know, that after it gets, the idea is to get it, 100% occupied. You know, I don't know how long that takes, but after it reaches a certain level, they're able to sell it off. And I guess I'm wondering if that's what happens, it gets sold off to some other company. Is everything that we had agreements on kind of out the window? I know the city wants to keep it maintained, but I guess the concern I have in the back, and I'm not prejudiced by any means, but I'm also thinking of my property values. Is there if it goes to another owner, can he or propose bringing in subsidized housing, low rent housing or whatever, so that the neighborhood kind of goes downhill? I know it's maybe hard to look down the road to see exactly what could happen down the road.
Switch, right? You're
Pardon?
worried about a bait and switch? Kind of
Yeah.
like somebody comes in promising the moon and then puts in junk, and then bad people move in and everything goes to heck?
Yeah. And I mean, it wouldn't be the first time something like that's happened, so, no.
We do have a special use agreement that kind of holds them to it.
Yeah, we can answer, yeah. Anything else?
Was there anything else that you guys, I end up being the spokesman? Okay, all
Did
right.
a great job,
Thank
actually.
you.
Yeah.
All right, the last person is Pamela Schultz of 4173 South 72nd Street.
I guess I have two questions. The first one is the red cedar fence that directly is between our backyards and the fence. Are they going to do something with that fence? Because, and I want to make sure that after this is done, if they replace that, are they going to maintain it? Because we've had a lot of problems with that red fence. My neighbor, myself, we have called and called to get it replaced or repaired. It's been broken down because shoplifters used to run through there, used to run through my backyard, scaring my children. I want to make sure that they're going to maintain it, because thus far, in the 20-some years I've lived there, we have fought to get the little bit of repair that has been done in the way past.
Great. Did you have another question?
No, I think so.
Okay, very good. Next person who's registering favor but not speaking is Stephen Sokol, 7154 West Forest Home. And then registering against but not speaking is David Hoppy. I hope I pronounced that properly. 7146 West Forest Home. Is that right? Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to register to speak for or against informational purposes before I get the folks up here to answer the questions, which seem mostly related to the setbacks and the fence along the property line, as well as drainage issues, right? And maintaining fence. Okay, there's no one else. Did you guys somebody want to speak? Oh, wait. Okay, wait.
I'm sorry, just before we start, is this conceptual something I can find on the city's website?
No, but we can give you a copy of it if you would like. Absolutely.
And it's still not set in stone, right? Nothing is set in stone yet.
No, so
Right.
I just want to be clear too, while he's coming up to the thing. So this is the very first stage. So I think there's a guy that's in front of you that looks like Stephen Colbert. See him with the glasses right there? So he's the representative from Brixmor. He's the one that's selling or he represents the people selling the property. Yeah. So if you want to lynch somebody in the parking lot, it would probably be him for the fence. No, that's just. So the property's been under the control of a lot of big major players over the course of time. Heritage was one, then an Australian company called Centro, and then somehow Brixmor ended up with it as a package of other pieces of property, and now it's for sale. So, and I can vouch that there have been a number of complaints, at least over the last 15 years or so, 20 years, about the fence and maintaining and people illegally dumping their snow in the parking lot, and people dumping gravel and doing all sorts of other stuff, people burning out back there, kids doing things that they're not supposed to behind the building. All sorts, parking there, sleeping there, keeping their trucks. All of those things are absolutely true, and that has been happening. The whole goal of this is to try to not have that stuff happen anymore by improving the property. So go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Scott Yauk with Cobalt Partners and Dan Roscoff also with Cobalt Partners. I think the first question was Maureen, right? So on the wall and landscaping, we met with, I think everybody was at the informational meeting, and I hope, the plan you've seen here is an improvement over what you saw then. That was the intention. And I know I talked to John, I think, on the phone once or twice, so we had a couple conversations. We made a number of changes. Again, it's still a concept plan, but, the plan's working out pretty well in terms of layout, we think, but, moving the houses that are along, or the units that are along the east farther back, so they're set back quite a bit farther than they were last time. There's no alley or driveway on that side either, it's sidewalks, so I think that eliminates some of the concern. Yeah, those are just sidewalks, yeah, so that the circulation is inside between the buildings, so that blocks, I think, a lot of that. I don't know that exact distance. I don't know, Eric, do you know roughly what that setback represents, would you say?
200 feet.
200 feet, so quite a bit more than we talked about, yeah. We show stormwater, but that whole area doesn't mean it's a pond by any stretch. That's just, the stormwater will be somewhere within that, depending on, how all the engineering works out. We had talked the last time about the fence. Again, the fence that is there, of course, isn't our fence. We plan to take that fence down. We plan to build a nice fence, and we're glad to set it farther back with the landscaping on the other side. Certainly glad to work with the neighborhood. I think you can look at 84 South, if others are familiar with like our Whitestone Station project, Menominee Falls. I mean, we maintain them, you know, to a standard that certainly we think is a kind of a Class A standard. You had asked a question as well about the runoff, and we can't, legal requirements, we can't put runoff onto adjacent properties, so that's all worked through with the city staff and engineering departments and so forth. I can't tell you exactly what the topography will be. I mean, there is a difference in elevation. That doesn't really go away, but the, you know, we're not going to create runoff or any kind of other ponding there. So does that answer questions for?
Are you going to buy it, and are you going to build it and hold it, or are you going to just turn around and sell it right away, or how does this work?
We typically hold things. I mean, you know, some things we've sold in the past, I mean, portions of project, but residential in particular, we typically wouldn't sell, don't intend to sell. But the question about that, I mean, that's not, you know, the plan isn't to build it and sell it off. But, you know, even if it did get sold at some point, there's restrictions. I mean, the city has restrictions. There's approvals that have to happen that govern, you know, what can be there. So those things typically, they call it running with the land, but it stays with the ownership. So that we can't just, those things can't just be changed by a subsequent owner. I think John's.
Can I have one more question?
Sure,
regarding
yeah.
the fencing?
Sure.
Would it be, and I mean, this is way ahead of time, to put that up first before anything starts?
Yeah, I don't see why, yeah, right, I don't see why you can't.
Noise, dirt, dust,
Yeah.
everything that's gonna be going on there. If we have our 6
Sure,
to 8
yeah, no, I don't see why we couldn't put some landscape trees and a fence at the beginning. I mean, you know, there'd be some initial grading and work like that would have to be done just before that, but right thereafter, so that, you know, because this is a, you know, it's going to be a construction project that'll go on certainly, you know, probably 2 years. I mean, to be candid about it, it'll take, yeah, right, for sure.
The city's preference is an 8-foot fence, just for the reason that the lady mentioned. By Pick and Save on 76, there would be shoplifters that would leave Pick and Save, jump the 6-foot fence, end up in the people's backyards. And then we ultimately ended up putting an 8-foot fence there.
A lot fewer
prevent those
jumpers
kinds of
at
things
8
from
feet.
happening.
You're jumping out of the townhouses here?
Right.
Or skipping their bill at Myers, huh?
Right. You had a question, John, too, on the sewer. Again, you know, we work with city engineering. It's not just, we can't just come in and do things. There's a lot of studies that, you know, Jeff and Christie and the other Jeff and other outside parties are all involved with. There's engineers that, you know, we have to work through all of that. So there's a lot more. And even regarding the fence, this is not a final plan. This is a concept plan. Again, tonight is a step in the zoning process. So we present conceptual plans so the city sees what that is. But we've got a meeting coming up with city staff to go into a lot more detail on, you know, what would be submitted here. And at that level, I can tell you, Christie's very good at it, coming back with, you know, we want more landscape, we want, you know, all these things that will get worked through. So this is not by any stretch a final plan. This isn't, you know, the location of the fence. So there's a lot more to come before that's ever approved. And then fence, we talked about. Maintaining the fence, we talked about. I don't know if you had other questions or if we've addressed yours. Okay. And then I know Steve Sokol's here. We've had conversations with Steve about maybe doing something because he's got a unique parcel that his what would be typically a square rectangular lot is kind of sliced as a diagonal. So he's really close to where that entrance is. So we were going to look at creating some kind of easement or convey a little strip just to kind of square that off for him so he's not, and that's an existing condition, but I think this would improve it. So we'd set that back. That's all the questions that we had. Are there others that, I don't know how much you want to interact, but any other questions we can answer? Or?
Just one quick question that Alderperson Akers had with regard to the restaurants and how all that works. So
the current situation, yeah.
Well, you know, everybody wants it, right? But that's still a work in progress. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. Well, there's, I I mean, it's public record, so Walgreens has, and this isn't uncommon shop, it's like what Southridge is going through with all of their attempts, and everybody's got different recorded restrictions, and, you know, a particular user comes in and they don't want some other competitive use, so that gets in their agreement, and then these things, you know, go on for 40 or 50 or 60 years. So in the agreement, there's like, I think it's a 60-year limitation on no other restaurants in there except the Myers restaurant. So we're working with Walgreens right now to try to change that, but that restriction affects the whole parcel. So,
And they're incredibly responsive, aren't they?
oh yeah, it's very quick to respond.
That's sarcasm.
We've been working on it for about a month since that came up. But, I mean, those are the things that, despite the zoning can allow other restaurants, which it would as it's drafted, there can be private restrictions that, you know, we can't do anything about other than to negotiate with Walgreens in this case. You know, we think it's in their best interest to not be outside a vacant, you know, mall, and I think they benefit from the development, and I don't think another restaurant necessarily hurts, but they have some approval rights, basically, is what it comes down to. Some of their concern is about drive-throughs and not affecting, you know, their traffic into their site, but they're pretty well isolated on that corner.
They used to be a restaurant.
I think they had, yeah, right. So
Did a
some of this
double
goes
burger
back.
basket for $3.
Yeah,
Does anybody
right.
remember
Sit
those?
at the little like Walgreens, how they had the little restaurants.
They used to have a restaurant. Patty Weber, one of your neighbors, used to work there as a waitress.
Other questions we can answer for
Just one
any of the
quick
older
question,
people?
as far as lighting for the people that live to the east, that will be controlled?
Yeah, I mean, we can't have any light pollution, so there's a whole lighting plan. So good question. I mean, that, you know, we can't have any lighting going over, between the landscaping, the fence, and then 200 feet of setback. I don't think we'll have any issue at all with that.
Okay, very good. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Register to speak for, against, or so if you're going to have questions, so you got to go up to the mic because it's all being recorded, okay? So this gentleman first and then the lady in the back. And if you could restate your name, that would be helpful.
I think I've talked to him about this, but the I don't know if it's a correct name, but holding pond, where all this water's gonna end up, that's still up here on the northeast corner. Now, I'm assuming this got fence around it, and
Yeah, let's, should we talk, I mean, Dan might help me put a little more in this one, but, I mean, I don't know that we know that it's gonna be even full, right? I mean, maybe it's.
We don't know the size. I mean, we haven't sat down with our, to do the stormwater maintenance plan. But it would be located up there because that's the lowest.
Could you talk in the mic, please?
Yep, sorry.
I was just saying that it's really the only location we can put it because it's the lowest portion on the site. So that's where all the drainage is gonna go to. But then we have to regulate the flows off that site so that it can't impact any surrounding properties. That's on our engineers develop those plans, and then the city reviews them to make sure that we're in compliance, not only with their rules and regs, but then also with DNR and other organizations.
and that ends up going off into the storm sewer eventually.
Yeah, it gets, what happens with the pond is it just, it fills up and then it lets it out very slowly during rain events.
But it goes to the storm sewer.
Correct.
The neighbors don't need to worry about it.
No,
seeping
it's
into
not
the-
going in, correct. Yeah,
right.
that all gets controlled. Those ponds end up having a clay liner, so there's no water that
Why,
can be.
I know I talked, but not everybody else was
Sure.
in on the discussion. I just kind of wanted them to hear that.
Yeah, no problem.
Is there one more?
I didn't register, so I can give my name.
You're good. I didn't see it. Did I miss you?
No, I did
No,
not.
she did. Oh, you did?
Earlier.
If you could fill one of the sheets before you leave.
Yeah,
You don't have to
yeah,
do it now.
Yeah, it's
but
fine. My
just-
name is Lori Blumen. I'm at 4156 South 72nd. And I see this, and I have no problem with what they're doing. But what I think I'm more concerned about the city. If you put that whole map up and we're this little island in the middle of a conglomerate of housing apartment complexes and stuff. And it kind of scares me, the property values. There's 10 houses on our street and 3 or 4 on Forest Home. And that kind of worries me that we're not going to get pushed out somewhere down the line, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, that properties are going to be, well, let's make it all commercial property. And our house values will be tumbled. And that's more to the city than this project. So
I don't think that there would be the impetus to remove the neighborhood that's next to Spring Mall right now, and I don't see that in the future.
Okay.
Truthfully, I don't see that each one of the houses would probably sell for about 250 grand times 13, right? 14 houses in there, something like
Yeah,
that.
I think there's 10
Maybe
on the
300.
street.
I don't know. I don't think anybody's
I
going to
think
be
you're a little
taking out the houses.
Yeah, it's just that that island seems to be, you know, we just seem like a little island in this all apartment complexes.
I honestly, and I don't know, and others
there's-
out there are much smarter about this stuff than I am, but it would seem to me that your neighborhood would probably be worth more being next to a higher quality development than a vacant shopping
Oh,
center.
absolutely, I agree.
So-
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns from anybody? Again, if you're registered to speak for, or against, or information, please fill out the slip. Does anybody else want to speak for, or against, or informational purposes? Just one more. You got to go to the mic, though. Sorry to make you keep getting up, but.
All right. Maybe this doesn't even apply, you know, but there's still that question mark out there whether the deal's going to go through. And if it doesn't, we're back to square one. Since we got the fella from Brooksmore here, you know, can we get him to commit to fix that fence?
So.
You know, we've
so
been
he works
messing
for-
with this thing. Yeah, okay.
From what
All
I've
right.
been told, generally speaking. So we have contacts now for Brixmore.
Yeah.
During the COVID thing, it was a little bit challenging sometimes getting people out there to do maintenance and repairs and.
Yeah, but this is long before COVID ever was thought
Yeah,
of.
no, and they didn't have it. I'm not sure how long they've had it. I don't remember,
Yeah.
but Heritage and Centro was an Australian
Yeah.
company that had it, and they were an Australian. Then they went through bankruptcy or something, and
But we've called the code enforcement officer. Sometimes that brings somebody out, sometimes not. And they come along and
sometimes they're putzes. Right?
they have some guy that doesn't know which end of the hammer fixing this thing. And he comes partway through mine. He goes, oh, Pam's gone now. She's next door to mine. And hers is falling down. You know, don't get near the
I'm
fence
sure
because
he'll give you.
boards
I'm
are
sure he
falling
has
off.
cards in his wallet, and I
Yeah.
think he'd probably distribute them to everyone here.
Yeah.
In the event that there's a concern
But it's just,
with
you
regard
know,
to
it's,
Brixmore's obligations under the terms of its.
in terms of the
property
whole piece of property, it seems like peanuts, but it's what's, you know, we've been dealing with forever. You know,
So now you see, now every
Now
time
we-
you watch the Late Show, you can think of,
Okay,
think of
thanks.
this guy.
He wants to address.
Did you want to speak, Mr. Brixmore?
Thank you. My name's Rich DiPolito. I'm with Brixmore. I am not with the management division, so I can't answer your question about why the fence wasn't fixed, but I am here. I'll give you my card. And we want to be a good neighbor, even though we might not be a neighbor much longer, but as long as we are, we want to be a good neighbor. So it has my cell number on it, and you can call me anytime.
Is that fair enough for that? Okay, anyone else that want to speak for, against, or informational purposes, except for the guy with the mustache? Just, that was, not that guy, you.
That'd be John.
Yeah, but you already got your 3 questions. All right. Anyone else want to speak for, against, or informational purposes concerning this item? I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
By Alderperson Akers, is there a
Second.
second? Second by Alderperson Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I do have a question.
Too late.
During the public hearing or after the vote?
Oh, sorry. I thought we voted.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. Mr. Kastner?
If we're adjusting borders, will we have to come back and redo it, or can we do something that allows for minor adjustments on?
I think it
Property
will
lines.
require the creation of CSM, Certified Survey Maps, and I think it'll require an agreement between the parties. First, it will require them to be able to purchase the property and close it. I think after that happens, or maybe concurrently, they can talk with Mr. Sokol, who has the triangle near the entrance, and they can, you know, they can conceptually look through what the property is. I mean, it was a pretty big, Mr. Sokol was, as I understand it, not a strong proponent of this initially, but it worked out an agreement with the developer that I think is pretty important to the overall approval of the project, I think, to protect the neighborhood. And so
Would that be a minor change, I guess, and not require a public hearing?
so it's a CSM.
Yeah, I know.
So it'll require, I'm not sure CSMs require public hearings. We just have to create a CSM. It has to go before the planning commission and ultimately be approved by the common council.
Change the zoning.
Right, there would need to be a rezoning of the piece that gets transferred. I would think, although I hate to speak for staff, that that's probably a rezoning application that the city would sponsor as part of that, as opposed to making the property owner.
Yeah,
do it
hadn't thought
himself.
about that. That it would be your triangle, if that's what it is, or whatever the strip is, would actually be zoned PUD. So we would have to rezone it and probably comprehensive land use plan, change it, the little piece that would potentially go your way, okay?
I was thinking, I don't know if we need a CSM, if it's adjoining, you can do a boundary adjustment, I think, under the statutes, but the zoning, I was thinking we could hold off, the zoning is held off till we close anyway, but we'd still have the issue because it's zoned commercial, right, and they're residential, so either way, we'd have the zoning issue. Yeah, okay. Forget that idea.
We'll try to do it in any way that's the causes the least headache, but I think those.
I think everyone at this public hearing is aware of that potential, which is probably eye-opening and enlightening.
Do you understand what the question is to people that live in the neighborhood? If Mr. Sokol gets a strip of property next to his thing, it will be zoned as it is being rezoned tonight. And there's something else called the comprehensive land use plan, which is this other kind of like zoning thing, but it's like, what does the city want to do with property? That little strip of property would have to have a public hearing just like this, technically, to change it. But the city can sponsor that kind of correctional kind of thing. I mean, that's probably what we do. So if you do get a notice in 6 months or 9 months from now to change the zoning at Mr. Sokol's house, understand that it's not the entire property, it's just a bit of a strip. Does that make sense?
Because that was the question she asked, whether or not we're going to intrude into the neighborhood.
We're gonna make the neighborhood bigger, it sounds like, by a strip of property. You know, talking to the developers, I strongly encourage that the setback between the neighborhood and the development be as big as possible, that a fence, finally a good fence, because I get those calls ultimately when they don't get fixed, that a good quality tall fence be placed there, and to try to be a good neighbor. And I think that according to the conceptual site plan before us, that message was heard loud and clear. And I want to thank them for doing that. Some developers don't do that. Okay. In fact, many developers don't do that. Okay, public hearing's been closed. Does the council wish to take any action? Of course, my screen went dead, I'm sorry. Any action is contingent upon
The cell.
the sale and
I'll make the
closing.
motion to approve the rezoning. Where is it? Approve the ordinance to amend the official Greenfield zoning map by rezoning the property located at 4200 South 76th Street from C4 Regional Business District to PUD Planned Unit Development, with the knowledge that there might be another rezoning in the future. And this is pending the sale.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Akers, second by Alderperson Kastner. Is there any further discussion internally? Okay, would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving along. Did you guys want to sit for the rest of the meeting, or should we take a 5-minute break to, let's take a 5-minute, or a couple-minute recess while everybody leaves, okay? Can we do that? Thank you, thank you. Make sure your mics are off because.
So just stop it and then start it?
Yeah.
Well, should I pause it?
Yeah, the 12 unit.
Paused, I guess.
I don't see that.
As long as you get cool that the rest of us are coming.
Oh, great, thank you so much. I took a break and it's getting it out. The break that is getting it out.
It's not?
You don't have to.
That's what I mean.
I used to park in the Weber driveway.
No, I was talking Mongolia. Oh.
We were the first house, we were across from Warner's driveway. We're having issues in our neighborhood.
I thought, I was thinking, that's what I was thinking.
But, you know, call the police on that, but he had.
Okay, yeah, yeah, thanks.
Nice seeing you guys.
You gonna be here for those amendments or not?
I got all excited, but it'll be fun.
Well, he's kind of, I think they've taken it over.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think it's gonna be okay for you guys. Sooner or later, something's gonna go in. This is pretty good. This guy is pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Have you mentioned anything about that, thing, that frayed plug?
Oh, by those other apartments to your east.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
It's frayed.
When's the-
See, I didn't even notice. I just saw a plug and I saw silver and I just thought it was like a big plug.
That's
Even when
so
I lived
weird.
there,
It's all frayed.
Yeah.
People were parking on our street on Plainfield and then cut and jump off of the fence or they knock down the fence and they go through the parking. Well, the common council years ago, I don't know why they even built that building, those apartments. You know, there was a road there that Plainfield went through from Fort Stone. Yeah,
So there would be a
yeah,
road in every
and they approved that apartment building right there. So,
Well, that only went through.
My only concern is on the west.
There's another house.
yeah.
There's a house at the
My
end.
concern is like here, my concern is like here.
The parking, there never really was enough parking from that apartment.
But do we
Now,
want
now
homeless
our
people
ordinances and stuff,
this?
we,
Probably not.
there's more parking. There's more green space, there's more
Because
parking.
we are looking to knock out those.
I was playing, well, then we don't have to do it. We moved in there in '63, and it went in about the same time. Cause I used to play in those, when they were building those apartments. And in the dirt, in the basements, and walking across those fields. So that was about '63, that apartment went in there.
That's just it. So I got permission
I
from.
like him. He's done a lot for the city.
You're, which house are you,
I like him too.
You're right.
I
You're
like
right.
him too.
You're right.
You know,
And they
Oh,
do
yeah, yeah,
nothing
yeah.
for them.
Due east.
That's true.
Do that way, towards up, yeah.
Yeah.
So right on the corner.
He doesn't
So
ask.
Holman to knock out.
You're the
Rose
only
is
one
like a-
there
yeah,
between the
comes from
apartments
World
and.
Rose Company has the official license to knock out
Right, now they do, yeah.
forever. I mean, he's.
Yeah,
Right.
so I said.
I know.
Through them, so.
I know.
So that's that. We don't have to. That's, Joan wants to, I don't want to put it on police cars, I don't want to put it on DPW cars, but if we have.
Oh, God.
Arbor Day or
Well, no, that's-
we don't even have to have it on anything. I just added a rose to the logo. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. No, not people in the country. There was and a couple brothers, so we used to play, and then,
Item before the.
yeah, the couple people in,
That's what.
and Nick, she's still there. She is my age and that.
Do you like the home of the knockout rose thing or not?
I
doesn't bother me. Do you like the rose on
You
our
like
flag?
it.
Do you like the rose? I don't mind. Do you like the rose?
My mother's name
Knockout rose, I like knockout roses.
Do you like the home of the knockout rose? You like that?
I don't want to use it all the time, but
See, yeah. See,
But for
my
Arbor Day,
point
we can
is-
do it, right?
yeah,
We are the home of the knockout rose,
on Arbor Days.
but it's not pledged to Progress. It's
But I think we should have, one logo. I don't think we should.
I don't think we
change
should
it
change
for-
either.
For
I think
Arbor
we should have
Day,
one.
I think we should have one. and
I'm gonna
that's
put it
We
on,
can-
which committee should I put it on that you guys can discuss it? Seriously. Should I just bring it to council, we can discuss it here, and I can make a presentation saying.
Do it
this is
here.
what I think.
Do it here. No, do it.
How about legislative? We've never had a
Yeah, do
legislative meeting.
legislative.
Legislative. It's not an ordinance.
Yeah.
All right.
But should it be?
No.
So I'm gonna
Park and
remove
Rec
the
would make more
references to
sense.
knockout rose from the recreator that's going to press on Friday.
We should just be here. Let's do
I'll
the
that.
meeting.
That's fine. Okay, are we back?
Let's plug
We're in session.
Okay, we're back at 8:13 from a slight recess. Moving along to item 4, the public hearing on the proposed 2023 budget. This was presented at the Finance Committee. It is all, you've received a copy of the proposed budget. When I presented it at the Finance Committee earlier this evening, there were some green sheets that you see in front of you. This was really for mostly ministerial changes. A summary of those changes is on the front page.
Yeah, thank you.
Historically, what we used to do probably 10 years ago, every time there was a change to the budget, a new color of paper would be distributed to everybody. This time, we're doing it all together at the end.
Did you say the finance committee earlier this evening?
Earlier this year.
Oh, okay.
Or this.
Or whatever, okay. I
this-
thought you said.
I might have. I
Okay,
don't really-
okay. I thought it was.
I might have said that. So the original budget was presented to the Finance Committee, to all of you. You have a ringed binder with the proposed budget.
Yes.
These are the changes. The cover sheet gives you an idea of the changes that were made within the budget. Every time a number is changed somewhere in the budget, it usually cascades to a whole bunch of cells elsewhere in the budget. To the point where you wouldn't think that that is the case, but a lot of things are interrelated. The budget itself contains salary increases of 2%. We continue to be subject to collective bargaining agreements. Our fire department, our fire union has agreed to the 2% raise going into next year. We're working through with the police union right now. That contract hasn't been settled, but this budget assumes a 2% salary increase. Health insurance stays at about 10%. Although it came in at 8.5%. The reason that we're doing that is because as part of the new renewal for our health insurance, it has higher deductibles and it has a higher HRA component to it. We're keeping the extra dollars in there in the event that that has some sort of cascading effect on the costs of the HRAs. That's why we're doing it. Of course, any dollars that aren't spent in the health insurance component roll into the general fund at the end of the year. The levy limit increase from the 2022 budget is $712,747, or 2.57%. I'm not quite sure what that meant. How you said that. That's an odd way to say that. Consistent with the levy limit formula, The raise is 2.57%? Including the debt increase, okay. Expenditure restraint program would allow us to increase taxes about $1 million more than that. That's the cost of living formula. The expenditure restraint program says that we should be able to increase our expenditures. We can increase our expenditures that $1 million. The tax rate TID out goes from 931 to 945. That's, I always get the equalized and non-equalized mixed up. That's the non-equalized value. The equalized value would be in the sevens somewhere. I'm not quite sure exactly what that is. A home assessed at $200,000 would see an increase of about $30 in property taxes.
City's portion.
The city's portion would be about $30 for a $200,000 home. I just want to point out, as I have during every finance committee meeting, and I think common council meeting this year, expenditures in the city, just like people's households, continue to increase dramatically. Police cars use gasoline. When gas prices go up, so do the expenditures within the city. Health insurance is a major component. While we have it budgeted at 10, it came in at 8.5%. That's a significant cost, coupled with a 2% pay increase for all employees to remain competitive as far as recruitment and retainment. We can't raise enough taxes to pay for that. Most of the revenue in this budget comes from basically three sources. The first source is raising the levy about $250,000. That's the levy limit component. Another portion comes from raising ambulance fees, EMS fees. That's consistent with a higher reimbursement rate from Medicare, which we worked diligently on for, 5 or 6, 7 years. We're anticipating about a $300,000 increase, $200,000 to $300,000 of net revenue increase from higher Medicaid reimbursement rates. We also looked, going through COVID, our ambulance runs and revenue streams were higher. In previous years, the actuals became higher than we actually budgeted. We brought those in line with the actual revenue rates that we saw under the old rates. That's where a significant portion came from to make ends meet. This budget, with regard to capital equipment and police cars, and historically we used to levy for capital equipment. We would raise taxes. If someone needed a police car, we'd raise taxes for it, right? This budget uses ARPA dollars. This is the COVID money from the federal government to fund our capital equipment this year. This is the first year that we're relying on non-levy, essentially, to pay for capital equipment. That's bad. We have one more year next year to do the same thing. And then 2 years from now, there will be no levy dollars available for capital equipment. This isn't an uncommon occurrence among other communities. Greendale, for instance, 3 or 4 years ago, stopped levying for capital equipment and capital improvements, and their levy dollars go only towards their operating budget. So what does that do? That will force us to borrow almost everything for capital equipment. There are some things as far as capital equipment go that we can't borrow for. Those are short-term items. We can usually only borrow long-term capital equipment items that have a shelf life of so long, and there are rules that that dictate all of that. With regard to capital equipment in this year's budget, I had over $3 or $4 million worth of capital equipment requests. This budget, I believe, has about 1.2 million of ARPA dollars covering capital equipment, and then the sanitary, I think it's the sanitary, might be the storm. I don't have it in front of me. There is some capital equipment that's being funded from the sewer funds. And I think the recycling fund, if I'm not mistaken, maybe not. Let's see, what else? You read a lot about the stuff in the news with regard to budgets, right? Other cities, the city of Milwaukee, Milwaukee County, which are really train wrecks right now. But they also received a significant amount of ARPA dollars that gets them through the next couple of years. But the day of reckoning for them is pretty significant. The day of reckoning for, I think, almost every other municipality within the state of Wisconsin isn't far behind, unless the legislature starts working on levy limits and comes up with a formula that's equitable for us. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There's two ways to reduce a budget, right? Some say that by defunding something like police or something, you can save money that way. But the other way is to withhold funding or the ability to raise the appropriate funds, which is really what's happening to us right now. Unless the legislature changes its ways, there will be a day of reckoning once this ARPA money goes away in 2 years. Truthfully.
As long as you mention the nasty word, defunding police, we are not defunding the police, we're increasing
No,
the
I mean,
police.
so that's the thing,
We're
right? I
increasing
mean,
by
we are not
2.8.
defunding our police department, which are still collectively bargained union members, and that's great. I have no objection to any of that stuff, right? But they cost more money every year. And if you can't raise taxes to pay for them, then what do? You start cutting other things, and ultimately, because police and fire, and to a lesser extent, public works, are such a huge part of the budget, at some point, you start looking at that stuff. We have smaller departments. We have Jennifer here with her 3 people who are responsible for the elections that are going on right now. And I can tell you, just going through the emails of all the open records requests that she's getting, all the double, triple, quadruple checking of every address of every person that may have ever lived in Greenfield that's constantly going on, which is just obnoxious, to be honest with you. It's asking a lot of the 4 people that work in that department to keep up with it. And I know that many of you have spouses or yourselves working, with regard to the elections, or have in the past. So if we don't have enough money and we don't cut police officers and we don't cut firefighters or something, right? Then we cut people in clerk's office, and then people in the clerk's office all quit because they don't need to deal with this crap, truthfully, right? And I hope she doesn't, right? Our planning department is essentially Christie and Andrew, right? We're a $4 billion city, and they essentially do it, right? If we cut one of them, then we only have one of them doing it, and we have enough work for both of them all the time, especially some of the things that are later on the agenda this evening, these agreements and amendments that we've been working on since May or June, right? I mean, all the time with emails and this and changing this and changing that, right? If we start cutting those kinds of people, then the things that took us like 6 months to do might take us 12 months, or they just won't get done. Or if we look over at our finance department basically sitting there, who controls our money, who have the controls over to make sure that the money isn't pilfered or taken, right? We cut one of them. That's not a good thing. It makes the taxpayers in the city, certainly they wouldn't feel very good about knowing that their money isn't being carefully watched over prudently like it is now.
Speaking of which, are we going to get the tax bills out in time with that other issue?
So there was an issue that remains to be seen. I remain more encouraged by it. So a couple of years ago, that
That was a yes or no question.
I think so. So, and this is some of the stuff that you don't see. The county instituted a new cloud-based program that of the municipalities, 6 of them jumped right into it, and I think are regretting it. Our finance department, under the careful guidance of Paula, didn't jump into it because she couldn't make it work. And there's a whole bunch of things that I could say that she tried to test and didn't work. So we've been fighting since May or June, right, to make sure that we have the ability to make sure the legacy system that's in place, not the new one that the other people jumped onto, would actually be able to receive the data from our finance, our tax bills, right? to be distributed. It sounds as if that is going to happen, that the legacy system will work, but I'm not sure that it does yet. I would be more concerned about the other 6 communities that had jumped right into the new system because they're having a very, very difficult time tying that system out. So there are not guarantees that the tax bills will go out. I feel more comfortable that ours will. I would feel less comfortable in a couple other communities, especially the bigger other communities. I mean, that just took a tremendous amount of time for everyone to do something that's really elementary, like sending out a tax bill. And then we get to the point of, you ask the question, so we're not defunding police. No, we're not defunding police. Public safety is one of the critical things that the city does. But there are a lot of other things that the city does that are critical as well, including getting tax bills out and making sure that there are people that adequately test it and adequately take care, to do what they do. I want to thank Paula and Tim for everything with that, because that could have been an incredible mess. I can assure you that there would be a lot of people that would be upset if they didn't get their tax bills, especially if they were deductible.
Are we
Okay.
going to buy Walmart so we can sell it and make some money for the next year's budget?
Say what?
Are we going to buy Walmart so we can sell it and
Yeah, so
make some more money?
it's a funny thing. I was thinking about this Walgreens thing where you can't have restaurants, and I thought about the Ridge Church and the Walmart site up there. The reason there's a Ridge Church there and a Salvation Army is because Walmart put covenants on the property that made an incredibly important piece of our city undevelopable because they wouldn't let anything compete with them forever.
But it's pretty
Legislature should probably
well-developed.
change that as well.
It's pretty well developed now, though. We've got,
Yeah, but it only get taxes out of a third of it.
but they did invest in the city too with the.
Oh,
with
the old
park.
Walmart I'm talking about,
Yeah.
the new
Yeah.
Walmart.
No,
The new Walmart.
The church
The
does.
Ridge invested in the city
good
with.
community.
The Ridge invested in the city with a path, and it was really great that they did
And they've
that.
done other investments in the city, but that was their big contribute.
So the new Walmart, we think is worth about 19, 20, 21, 22 million. Walmart thinks it's worth 6 million. And the standing idea is that, well, maybe we should eminent domain it for 7, right? And they can make some money on it, and then we can turn around and sell it to somebody else who will actually pay an appropriate amount of taxes on it.
Can I question little I page?
The what?
The little I page, the
Sure.
first page?
Mm-hmm.
You got health department. Can we put any kind of footnote that designates why it's 600,000 or 400,000 higher than it was? Because that year is gonna go, the baseline year is gonna go away.
Which one are you talking about? Little I-2?
Little I, 1, Health and Human Services. Really, in 2020, they had 680,000. Now we're budgeting 976. I understand completely why we're doing it, but I don't want to look at it next year and 5 years from now saying, why did we cut the health department by
I don't know how
$100,000?
else to do it, so we have the grant funding that's reflected in the higher expenditures there. So every time Jennifer has her elections, right? There's wild fluctuations in how much levy and operating money goes into the clerk's office. During a presidential election, it's like tens of thousands of dollars more to administer the election, and the following year, those dollars aren't there anymore, and it shows a significant percentage change. I understand where you're coming from. I think that the mere fact that we show 20, 21, 22, or 20, that'll be reflective of, there will be some changes in the health department next year, I think.
Yeah, I guess now I think about that, we're definitely gonna, okay.
So
I just don't want to lose sight of
Yeah, so we're in the
why it
process of
happened.
sort of kind of going through there and reorganizing and looking at.
Okay.
So, and I think that like with the COVID and ARPA dollars, I mean, that stuff's going to go away, that grant funding's going to go away. And grant funding is a significant portion of the health department's expenditures. Is that a fair statement? It's not grant funding isn't a big part?
Grant funding is not included in the numbers that you're looking at.
So this is all levy? Okay. Well, I can assure you that the levy dollars will not be spent at those levels next year. And you can put that in the record if you'd like.
I Well, I just keep bringing it up because I
Yeah,
don't
no,
want it to
I totally understand.
budget creep or whatever they call it, mission creep or.
So there was a bunch of budget creep. So if you look at the health department budget, it would be substantially, I apologize for not looking at what, the expenditures there are substantially higher too. The organizational chart for the health department this year was significantly big. And a lot of it had.
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID funding and filling positions or the potential for positions with those dollars, but those dollars will disappear and some of this stuff. We don't want to jeopardize our class, what is it, Pam? Class 3 health status. We're working towards that. Recently had a.
No, we recently obtained it. We don't want to lose it.
Well, we still have some stuff to do when we are maintaining it.
And that's it. We want to keep it.
So we're going to try to do that in the most cost-effective manner that we can and make sure that our community remains healthy and safe to the fullest extent possible.
Is anyone registered to speak on this?
Has anybody registered to speak for or against informational purposes concerning this budget? Has anybody registered to speak for or against informational purposes concerning this budget?
Make a motion to close the.
Did you want to speak? He doesn't know. He's just watching other stuff. Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers. Any discussion, questions? So I'm not a big proponent of raising taxes, right? I'm not, none of us are. Unreasonable raising taxes. No one's suggesting that the ERP limit of 8% is what we should be raising taxes. No one is suggesting that. But we're in a position, if this keeps going the way that it is, we're not being given the opportunity or the tools to raise enough revenue to be spent prudently on the reasonably controlled prices that are impacting our community.
We'd have to get rid of leaf collection?
Well, so that,
No.
well, that's, I see that there's someone used to work in that area, and there was discussion about, not plowing alleys and not picking up leaves and not doing this and not providing public services that our constituents are quite used to. And part of what makes our city a special, better place is that we do things, we bend over backwards to make it a good place to be, right? I don't, no offense to the neighbor to our east, and I understand their financial problems, but I don't want to be in a position where I'm charging for light poles, or I'm not plowing alleys, or I don't want to be like that. I don't think any of us do, and I think we need to be given the opportunity and the tools to not be cast in that light someday. Does that make sense?
Is
All
there a
right.
resolution in here that we can vote
Where's,
on?
I don't,
We have a motion and a second to close, but
all in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. So there is a resolution for, do we? Is it part of the packet? Okay, there's a ton, there's 100 pages of attachments. Would Mr. Kastner like that? Or Sarian or some, no, he asked for, he was reading.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to?
Is this the right number? Approve the resolution in the amount of $28,440,730.
That's when
I'm trying to find it in our, it's in your packet.
It's like page 22 in your packet.
I have that.
Page 22 in the packet.
Page 22, I'm sorry.
I have it.
At least electronically it is.
Yeah.
So I will read it. This is, it's an unnumbered resolution. Whereas the City of Greenfield has prepared an annual budget for the 2023 fiscal year in accordance with the requirements of the City of Greenfield Municipal Code. And whereas the Common Council has reviewed the proposed revenues from all sources and the proposed expenditures for all purposes and has directed that the proposed budget be adjusted accordingly. And whereas a public hearing on the annual budget was held on November 1, 2022, after due and proper notice of said hearing having been given in accordance with the provisions of Section 65.90 Wisconsin statutes. And whereas it is necessary to levy a property tax in the amount of $28,440,730, exclusive of the TIF levy, to fund the expenses of the City of Greenfield contained in the 2023 annual budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greenfield, Wisconsin, as follows: that the 2023 annual budget, a summary which is attached here and made part hereof, be and is hereby approved. And 2, that the property tax is hereby levied in the amount of $28,440,730, exclusive of the TIF levy on all taxable property within the City of Greenfield, as returned by the assessor in the year 2022 for the purposes as set forth in this budget. Is that the resolution that you would like to?
Yes.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian. No, you're good. No, you're fine.
And that's going to be a increase of 2.41?
2.57%.
What?
2.5%. 2.57%. Of the 2.57%, approximately 1.57% is the debt levy increase, which will start coming down ultimately once we start paying, all right? Okay. Motion is made and seconded. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Entertain a motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider.
By Alderperson Akers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to reaffirm.
Motion to reaffirm.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderperson Collins. Do we have to call reaffirm? Could you just call it in English?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner? Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Okay, the reason we did that is because now they have the authority to send out the tax bills without worrying about it being changed last minute. That's what we
At the
do.
next common council meeting.
Hmm?
At the next council meeting.
Right. Okay, you guys got everything you need? Good? Awesome. All right, I got to get back up here. All right, moving along. Item J, old business. I don't have any appointments this evening.
Okay.
Still looking for a tree commissioner and a board of review person. New business. Item K1, approve applications for 2022, 2023 operator licenses from our city clerk, and entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a
subject to all the
motion, whoops, to
Second.
approve.
Compliance with everything else. Motion by Alderperson Collins, second by Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 2, approve application for 2022-23 combination Class B fermented malt beverage and liquor license for the K-Pot Korean Barbecue and Hot Pot.
Yes.
Consistent with what's there? You're actually-
Sorry.
Okay. And entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
By Alderperson
I will
Akers,
second,
by Alderperson
gladly.
Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
All
But
opposed?
just a point of order on that, does that, as far as count as our member we were talking about?
It does. It is one of them. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
So how many does that leave us?
The liquor license.
We have 2 available of the regular liquor licenses.
So now we'll have 1 available and 10 reserved.
We'll have 2 available, I believe.
2
And
available?
then 14 reserves.
14
Okay.
reserved, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now
Good
2 available
question.
after this?
Mhm.
Okay.
But I'm excited.
Okay. Item 3, discussion decision regarding grant. Did we vote? We voted on that, right?
Yes.
Discussion decision regarding grant award from the National Association of County and City Health Officials for the Health Equity and Mentorship Program. This is by our acting health director, Abby. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion
make-
to approve.
By
And I will
Collins,
second.
Second by
It's a beautiful email
By
she sent us
Akers,
explaining it
second
too.
by Collins. Would you please?
Go alphabetically there.
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Item 4 is discussion decision to approve MOU between the Greenfield Health Department and the Salvation Army to rent space for community concert.
Was that needed?
That
Because
was being removed,
It's removed?
unfortunately.
Okay, item 4 is
she,
being
in her
removed.
email, she said that it's being
Only-
canceled because there was only 4 reservations.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm sorry, I didn't see that one.
yeah.
So I
Okay,
don't
so
think we
item
have to
4 has
act
been
on it.
removed. Item 5, approve the 2023 special assessment rate schedule from the Board of Public Works. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Alderperson Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Alderperson Akers, would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
And that's something that we adjust annually on a rate of inflation.
Right. Item 6, adopt an ordinance establishing the 2023 service charges for the collection of garbage, refuse, yard waste, and recycling. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion for approval.
By Kastner, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Second by Bailey. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
7, adopt a resolution to approve a relocation order for the purchase of right-of-way for a new section of sidewalk on South 43rd Street relating to the Loomis overpass, right?
Yeah, it's related to that area. It's land that's adjacent to the leather, Milwaukee leather.
Okay. Entertaining a motion to approve that.
I'll
resolution.
make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson.
Second.
Collins, second by Alderperson Akers. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Item 8 is a resolution approving the First Amendment to the developer agreement by and between the City of Greenfield and Cobalt LLC, Loomis LLC, developer for multifamily development within the area known as Loomis Crossing. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson
Aye.
Kastner? Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Number 9, resolution approving a second amendment to the development agreement by and between the City of Greenfield and Cobalt Loomis LLC, developer for office building development within the area known as Loomis Crossing.
And I'll make a motion to approve that also.
Motion by Alderperson Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson
Aye.
Kastner? Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Item 10, resolution approving a fifth amendment to the development agreement by and between the City of Greenfield, Greenfield Development Partners, Inc., and Greenfield Development Partners Holdings, LLC, collectively referred to as developer for development of remaining land and expanded land within the 84 South Development. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion for approval.
By
And I'll
Alderperson
second.
Kastner, second by Alderperson Collins. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
I just want to do a shout out to Christy Porter, who worked with Deb, our counsel from Reinhardt, and worked with Joe Murray from Ellers, and everyone else to get this done. This is a big deal. This is, I was telling her that if, of all the kind of TIF stuff and all the things you could do, this is probably some of the most complicated stuff there is. And if you can know this, you can know anything. I'm just telling you, I'm very impressed. So that was.
Very smart people working on it
Yeah,
outside.
well, we have very
not
smart
me.
people working with on our side too, and I was very impressed with this entire project and how it came to fruition.
Not easy dealing with smart people sometimes.
No, it's not.
Good job.
No, you did a really good job. So, item 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 are the typical finance committee stuff. I'd entertain a motion to approve those.
I move for approval.
Motion by Alderperson Sarian.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. All in favor? Oh, wait, you got a call, sorry.
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Okay, the very last thing we have here is the common council going to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stats 19.85, parent 1, parent C, for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Adjourn. Afterwards, we will adjourn into closed session. I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Is there a second by Collins? Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins?
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.